Welcome to the Kiwimana Buzz.
Hi, welcome to the Kiwimana Buzz, and this week we're talking to Gabriel Petrut, all the way from Toronto in Canada. So the beginning of the interview starts a bit crackly, unfortunately, but those technical issues get sorted out pretty quickly. So please bear with us and enjoy the conversation. There's some great stuff here, and I encourage you to check out the video as well, because there's a couple of parts where Gabriel shows some of the inventions he's made for the beekeeping. So hopefully we can get some photos for that, or just look on the video. Cheers, guys. Hi everyone, this is Gary here, and we've got Gabriel Petrut here from near Toronto in Canada. So how's it going there, Gabriel?
Hi Gary, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Gabriel.
Are you originally from Romania, is that true?
Yes.
How long have you been in Canada?
In Canada, almost 5 years now.
Oh, okay. And you started beekeeping in, was it June
Back home.
2011? Yeah. Oh, you started back
Yeah, I started back home with my father. That was in 91, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. And so you've been keeping, in Canada you've been keeping them since June 2011, eh?
Yeah.
So, and how many hives do you have at the moment?
At the moment, well, me and my friend have 4 hives. So half of them are mine.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You had a lot more, eh? But you just recently lost some, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, we put 19 to winter, and we ended up with only 4 hives left.
Oh, that's terrible. So what do you think? What do you think the reasoning is they died?
There were several reasons. The most important, I think, it was too windy site.
Oh, okay.
I just noticed today, because every time I went to the bees, it was calm weather, nice weather. So I never got a bad weather over there.
Yeah.
But today I got the chance to see a bad weather, and there was a strong wind blowing right through the trees where the bees are set.
Oh, okay. Straight into the entranceway then.
Yeah, probably. And having 2 entrances open, bottom and top, that makes for a lot of air current inside, and it cools the hive very fast.
Yeah.
So I should have thought about this earlier and installed some, wind blockage or something. Yeah.
Well, maybe next year you can do that.
Next year I'm gonna have them in a different place, closer to home. Only 1 hour drive, not 2 hour drive, so I can go more often over there, even during the week after work.
Yeah.
It's very important. This was one reason why my varroa treatment failed, because I didn't do it every 4 days. I did only every 7 days, so wasn't as efficient as it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And another explanation that I heard from other beekeepers was that last year the spring came here very early, and the varroa had more time to do their growth cycle. So they ended up in the fall in a larger number than anticipated, and I didn't check the exact number. I did a check, but like I said, I put a paper inside the hive, sticky paper, and I checked it after a week. So it wasn't, very, how can I say, I mean, most of the varroas over there probably were gone before I got the chance to check them,
Yeah.
because the bees
Okay.
try to clean everything, so you have to check it next day. That's why it's called the 24-hour drop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
we do something similar here. Yeah.
Yeah.
What treatment were you using?
What's formic acid
Oh, okay. We use it like a was
with
it like a pad
pads. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
pads.
Was it the Modaway ones or the just the pads?
Just regular pads. Like the ones the butchers use to suck up the blood in the meat packages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find that normally you find that quite good?
It works, but I was afraid to make it too strong, so I don't lose queens actually. So that was another fault of the treatment.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried Modaway cook strips? Because they're Canadian, aren't they?
I just bought a box, so I'm gonna use them this year.
Okay. Oh, you'll have to tell us how you get on because we're looking at importing them this year. So. Yeah, I've heard good things about it, but I've never used it because it's not been approved here yet.
Well, I read, the reviews are mixed. Some beekeepers had a lot of losses with them, and some reported, very effective varroa, destruction. So I'll try to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's you got to try and find something that works for your bees, something good. This year we've been trying oxalic acid with the vaporizer. So I'm just doing a drop count at the moment to check that. So I'll be checking those results tonight.
It's fall for you, right?
Yep, it is. It's it's autumn now. Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess that's when they recommend doing the oxalic acid. Just the last treatment before you prepare them for winter.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. But unfortunately, we never have a broodless period in New Zealand because it's never that cold. So they've always got brood. So.
Okay. Yeah, we have.
So how are your bees going then today? Because you've just been inspecting them, haven't you? You're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I went to check last weekend, and that's how I found that after 3 weeks of cold, since beginning of March to almost end of March, right? I lost. Let me see. I lost 5 hives, right? No, actually there were only 3 or 4, because what happened? I got 3 hives that were strong, and another 3 hives that were very weak with very little bees inside. So I unite them. So that's how I ended up with the 4th hive, which is weaker than the stronger ones. So it's just like, let's say, half a hive, like a nuke.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So hopefully they'll get through the next few weeks, then I guess.
Yeah, they will, because I pulled out frames with honey from the dead outs, and I reorganized and cleaned the hives that still had bees. So I gave them lots of frames with honey and pollen, so they can start up, properly, no problem. So I think they will be fine.
And you were saying before you were feeding them as well. What were you using some special feed? Maybe you could explain that to people.
My father gave me this recipe. We are using, in the spring, because it's still cold, we are using 2-to-1 ratio sugar to water, to liquid actually. And the liquid is half and half skim milk and water. And we add like 5 milliliters of cobalt chlorine solution. And this is a replacement of vitamin B12. which stimulates the production of royal jelly in the bees. So they will start to feed the queen, and they will be able to also feed the brood. But you have to give them this stimulant only when they have enough food in their hives. Because if they don't have food, they won't stimulate the queen, you know, so.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So, are you gonna be splitting your hives soon as well?
Well, I'm planning to buy 10 nukes, hopefully half of May or something like that. Depends when they will be ready. And with this cold weather, probably they're gonna be late. So probably towards beginning of June or something like that. But I plan immediately as I get them, I plan to start on the existing hives. I plan to start a queen rearing, and I will start to stimulate the nukes to produce more brood. And immediately as I have, so probably in a month, end of June probably, when I will have the queens mated, I will make the splits.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the nukes will not be very strong. So it's like, you know, splitting a hive into two smaller nukes, like literally nukes, 5 frames, you know, out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, end of June, the nukes until fall they will grow enough to be wintered.
Great.
So that's the idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't have much of honey production this year because the hives will be weak for honey production. But at least I make my number of hives again, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're building bees, not building honey, or making.
Right. This year, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And how many hives would you like to ideally be going into next winter with?
I'll try to winter 20 hives and some extra queens if possible. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And did you want to explain to the audience about your 1-2-3 method that your father taught you for splitting hives?
The 1-2-3 method. Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes well. There are many ways to split a hive. This year I'm gonna do it differently than I did last year. Because this year I'm gonna work with 8 frame boxes with medium frames, which are like 6 inches tall.
Okay.
I can show you.
So you actually make all your own frames as well, Gabriel?
So this is the frame size.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I will use the same size frame in all the boxes for brood and for honey.
Oh, so they're medium. That's 3/4 size, is it? Is that right?
Yes, it's 3/4 size.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are like America then. You call it what do you call it? Full, half, and
they call it deep, medium, and shallow.
Deep. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go full, 3/4, half.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is like 3/4. And I've split it a frame in 2 to make frames for mini nukes.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
So these will be the mating nukes, and I can put them in a hive. I'm gonna show you in a second, if possible. Okay. Oops. Okay, so you can see the inside of the box here.
Yeah.
And you see the metal piece that I put?
Yeah, I do, yep.
Yeah, so those two frames are resting on that piece of metal that sits between two regular frames.
Okay.
So this allows me to put those little frames in a regular hive for the queen to lay eggs in them, or after I get rid of the mating nukes, I can put them back in the hive so the brood emerges, you know, then I can move them to a side.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah,
Something
sorry,
happened.
Yeah, you must have dropped off.
Yeah, probably.
Dropped off there.
Yeah, okay, so
yeah, that's...
so I can you know, get the honey out or whatever, you know, whenever I need to do when I get rid of the nukes. But mostly right now, preparing the nukes, it's good to have it, because I can, when I'm doing the nukes, the mating nukes, I need a frame with brood inside, with capped brood, you know, so
Yeah.
I need to put the frames in the hives for the queen to lay brood in them, and then leave them there until they're ready to be moved to the mini nukes.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah. So I can also show you the way that I did the mini nukes. So this is the box, and it's split in 4 compartments. It's a regular hive box.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You see, I put dividers long ways and sideways, and the frames, that you can see how the frame fits in here. The bottom has 2 layers of mesh, and in between those 2 layers there is a plywood. And the reason for having 2 layers of mesh is so the bees from the bottom hive cannot erode the legs or wings of the queen in the mating nukes if the queen falls on the mesh, which sometimes my father told me that it can happen. So that's why he told me to put 2 layers of mesh with the space between them. Does it make sense? Now I can't hear.
Yeah, it does. What's that for? Is it so that the queen can't, her legs can't get stuck in the mesh? Is that right? Or for things to...
The thing is, if the queen falls down on the bottom, okay, let's. So this box I'm gonna put on top of a strong hive, so the heat from the hive below gets through the mesh and helps the mini nukes. You know, so I can use just a very few bees inside the mating nukes. I don't need too many bees. I just put like one frame with bees. I can shook it in 2 mating nukes. You know, so that's the idea. And then there is this. Now these are the entrances. So the entrances are just regular bottle which I cut and I drilled, and they're made like this, so the bees just get out from here and fly. They don't go on the hive wall. So the bees that come out from here cannot go inside the other mating nuke and attack the queen there.
Yeah.
You know? So there are 2 entrances on this side and 2 entrances on the other side.
For the other ones, yeah.
Yeah, for the other 2 mini nukes. So that's about it, and each one has a independent lid, and then there will be a big lid on top of it.
Okay.
So I can open only one mini nuke at a time and check on the queen and everything else, close it, and then open the next one, and so on. Last year, I had just split in 2 long ways. So I was using regular frames. Now this year, because I have less bees to work with, you know, I just split it in 4. It's more work for me, but less work for them. You know, I can use less bees. So I built 3 boxes so I can mate 12 queens.
Fantastic.
I need 10 at a time, but, you know, just in case, I'm going to try to mate 12 and see how it goes, you know, have a couple in reserve. And then I will make a second batch and probably replace the queens that I will get in the nukes, just to have fresh queens for the winter. Or maybe for wintering those the queens from the second batch. We'll see how it goes over the summer.
Yeah.
It all depends on the weather and nectar flow and all the development the bees have, so the plans can change, but that's the basic plan.
Yeah, we can't control the weather, can we?
Yeah. not us, of course. There are other people that are trying to do that, but but we can't control it yet. Yeah.
No. Okay. So just some questions. What's one thing that you wish you knew before you started beekeeping that you know now?
The thing is, I know a lot in theory, but not so much in practice. So I'm still learning to, take better decision on the moment. When I get to the bees, I start working and I see something, sometimes I don't take the best decision on that moment. And I go home and I think about it and I'm like, oh damn, I should have done that instead of what I did, So that is what I wish I knew how to do it, like instantly, like how I learned all the tricks of the trade, from my father. I wish I could have learned that experience,
Yeah. And your father's still keeping bees in Romania, isn't he?
Yes. He is 76 years old, and he has, I think, around 20. So he goes between, 15 to 25.
Wow.
Because each year he sells part of a few hives, like 10 hives, and then next year he grows them back, so.
So does he do it for the honey, or does he just do it for fun?
He doesn't have enough honey flow over there. Actually, he gives them a lot of sugar syrup, just to keep them alive. But he needs something to do, Otherwise, it's pretty boring when you're retired and can't do much,
Yeah.
Like almost every other old guy, he has some health problems. And, being active helps him deal with all that life, situation.
I must get my father into beekeeping too, because he needs something to do as well.
It keeps your mind alive. You think about something. You're going and working outside in the fresh air and stuff like that. And it's actually a pretty nice hobby to have.
Yeah.
It can be very challenging, or you can do it very basic and simple, and let the bees tend their own business.
Yeah.
So there are different kinds of beekeepers. So.
Yeah. Oh no, it's there's definitely a lot to learn, but that's a good thing about it too. That if you keep learning, your brain keeps moving.
Yeah, exactly. And like my father tells me, even after 4 years of beekeeping, he still makes mistakes. Because, like I said, sometimes somebody interrupts you doing something and you forget the step. And of course, the bees will penalize you. Get the penalty for doing a mistake. Things are not going the way you wish, so yeah, it still happens.
Yeah, for sure. And so what's the most exciting thing you've done in beekeeping so far?
The most exciting, actually, I'm not really sure which is actually exciting. Well, to me, everything is exciting, so I don't know. I started a couple years ago, with 6 hives. Yeah. I got 30 kilograms of honey per hive, a total of 180 kilograms in just, 3 months. And my father, the same year, He has bees. He had like 20 hives, right? And he got only 200 kilograms of honey from 20 hives. So
Yeah.
yeah. But last year I got less because I split it. I split it a lot, and I doubled the numbers, and I didn't stimulate anything, so I just let them go as they did. So I wasn't very happy with their development. That's why this year I'm gonna try to stimulate them so they can grow faster.
Yeah.
But other than that, I built my own boxes frame. I just assemble them, and I use the plastic foundation. I've also used wax foundation, but I don't think the work is worth it to wire the frames, embed the wax and all that. Then it's hard, when you're dropping a frame, it breaks if it's cold like right now, but I dropped the frame full with honey, and it was on foundation, and it didn't break. So it makes a difference. And I found that right cell foundation is grown better and faster by the bees than Perco foundation, for example. Those are the two brands that I've used last summer. So I've noticed that right cell, it's grown faster by the bees.
Oh, are they slightly different patterns or something? Are they?
I think right cell has a little bit of wall started. Compared to Perco, which is just a little bit of wax on top of the hexagons, that makes the pattern.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never used plastic foundation. We only use wax foundation here.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Well, it's a lot easier to work with. You build them a lot faster. Just assemble the frame, then just pop in the foundation, and that's it. Put them inside, maybe spray them with sugary water, put them inside, and the bees are right there starting to work them. Especially if you stagger them in between brood frames, man, they get grown so fast. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I noticed you're talking on your blog about foundationless frames. So do you use foundationless frames yet?
Yes, foundationless frame is very good because the bees can grow the drone comb over there, and they won't destroy the other combs. That's for bee brood. Yeah. So for the worker brood, right? So it's good to have it in the hive all the time on one of the sides of the brood, in both brood chambers if you're using doubles. And when it's capped, you can cut it out and melt it. Actually, put it in a pan with boiling water. The wax will melt. The larva will boil over there. Then you can scoop it up and feed it to the chickens or to the fish. Go fishing. It's very good, bait, fishing bait.
Yeah.
You can catch trout with it, no problem. So you can do something with that larva. Just don't throw it away. And of course, in that process, you eliminate a lot of varroa. So you keep the numbers in control.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you can do. And also, if the bees are building regular comb on that frame, and they put worker brood in that frame, that means they don't have enough space. The space is blocked. I mean, the queen doesn't have space for laying eggs. So you have to check about that, see what's going on in the hive. Or if they put honey, they don't have enough supers on. So you have to add supers. So looking at that particular frame in the hive, you can see right away different situations, what happens in the hive.
Yeah, I've seen a French guy has a frame, and he splits into 3 sections, and he does a similar thing. Because depending on what the bees are building on at that time, that can tell you what's going on in the hive.
It's actually even better having 3 sections, because you don't cut the complete frame, you cut just portions of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like an indicator frame, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only thing is, if you're working like a commercial beekeeper, and you have a ton of supers on top of the brood chamber, you need to lift all those supers, and they might be full with honey, just to get to the 2 brood boxes. So it's hard to check it. So it all depends how you're working.
Yeah. I mean, commercial beekeeping and hobbyist beekeeping are totally
Yeah.
It's a totally different game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we've got more time to do stuff like that, whereas they don't. Got 3,000 hives, so you can't do that the same level.
No, they actually don't touch the brood chambers at all. They check them in the spring. They do the treatments in the spring, and during the summer they just watch how many supers get filled. If they don't get enough supers, they will kill the queen and fix that hive with a nuke. Yeah, they say they will repair it with a nuke. So that's what they're doing. They just want the number of supers filled with honey, and that's it. And of course, they're doing all the work that we're doing as hobbyists. They will do that work with the nukes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So they treat their nukes like we're treating the regular hives, Yeah. So over there they have that control frame and all that stuff that we are doing. They do it over there. They raise queens. They have mating nukes, small boxes or like this, or doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so what do you think, Gabriel, is the biggest issue facing beekeeping today?
Oh, biggest issue is the poisoning.
Yeah.
That the bees get from seeds treatments. Like last year.
Nicotinoids. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Last year, a beekeeper here in Ontario lost almost 700 hives just because wind blew dust from the hopper where the seeds were, when they were planting the seeds. So the wind blew that dust, which was made by, seeds rubbing against each other. They'll grind that coating and they'll make it a dust. And when they empty the beans in the hoppers, and they go through all those conduits and stuff, to get to the seed machine, the wind can blow the dust, and it gets on the flowers on the side of the road. If there is a canola field right next to the cornfields, it'll blow right on that, and yeah, it gets through the plants and poisoned the flowers and the nectar, so the bees get affected, and yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the Canadian government doing anything about that? Are they looking at banning chemicals?
This company that makes the seeds, Monsanto, has guys everywhere, so we can't do too much about it. We can complain, sign petitions, and all that stuff, but it's a bit hard to get the pesticides and the GMO seeds and all that banned. Yeah. So we're trying, but it will take time until that is gonna be done. And so far, the only thing that can work is to find a place where the farmers around you don't use GMO seeds.
Yeah.
Which it's pretty hard to find,
Yeah, true. And then put your beehives in the middle of that.
Yeah. And of course there is the city beekeeping, because here in the city we don't get all that poisoning. I mean, who sprays their flowers, to
Oh, some
you know,
people.
insecticides and all that stuff. So,
Some people do, Gabriel.
well, it's a lot less than, you know, if they go out on the field. Plus, there are the basswood or linden trees around, and black locust, which I can't find on the countryside, but I can find them in parks here around my house. Unfortunately, I can't keep bees in my backyard because it's a townhouse, and all the backyards are connected to each other, and I have to have, like, I don't know, 30 meters to the closest, you know, so that's not even possible. So yeah.
Oh, well,
But I would like to keep a few hives here in the backyard to get you know, some honey from the black locust or linden, you know, like back home in Romania. I will definitely have clients for that kind of honey.
Yeah. Is your new spot, the new spot you're putting your bees, has that got any black locust there?
No.
No.
No. Because it's a you know, farm site, and there are different types of, I don't know, cultures, whatever, how you call it. So there is corn, there is soy, there is alfalfa, there is canola. So they are rotating their crops, you know, yearly. So I don't know exactly what's going to be planted this year, but still, I will have something in the usable area, you know, foraging area that the bees have. So, plus we have some let's say reserved land where they get wildflowers, and they get you know, forest trees like maple and all that grows over there, you know. So we have different kinds of flowers. So hopefully I'm gonna have a nectar flow, you know, continuously during the year, except probably in August when it's is a little bit less. So then I'll have to start the treatments and all that stuff. Yeah.
Because you guys get quite a lot of snow there, don't you?
Yeah, but like this year it started very late. Like in November there were still it was still warm outside. Even in December we had in the city here we had green grass. We had spring flowers coming up in December. And then it hit us, you know, just before Christmas, and it continued until, I mean, even today at the bee yard there is snow over there on the ground.
Oh, okay.
And during the night, there is like -8 degrees and stuff like that. So, yeah.
No. So the bees are clustering together quite well then.
Yeah, but this next week that comes, the temperatures will go, even the nighttime will go to 0 degrees or even positive. And during the daytime, they will go up to 12 degrees. So they will be able to fly and, you know, try to find some nectar and stuff. So yeah, weather is improving.
Yeah, and I also understand you like building robots as well.
Oh yes. Sorry, I don't have any in my shop here.
Oh, that's okay.
They're in the basement. Yeah.
Have you invented any robots to help you with the bees?
Not yet. I was thinking about how I can, you know, help the bees, and there is something, you know, to help with ventilation, to get the moisture out of the hive, to have a temperature and moisture sensor inside the hive, and a microcontroller controlling some, you know, a fan or a couple fans to blow out the moisture when it's too moist, and also control a wire on the bottom of the hive, you know, that can heat the hive and raise the temperature a bit if there is too cold outside. So I was thinking about that, but you know, you'll need power at the site. So if the bees are near the house, then yeah, that's fine. If they're like mine in the middle of the field, I don't have a power over there.
Yeah, unless you get some kind of solar power or something with a battery or something.
Yeah, I will, but eventually. I mean, I don't plan it for next winter, but if I can, then sure, I'm gonna try. So that's the
Yeah,
basic idea that I had. And other than that, I mean, they're very good at what they're doing.
yeah. And so you've got over there. You've obviously got varroa mites. What other pests do you have to deal with in Canada that other people might not have to deal with?
I just had this winter. I had mice, but not inside the hive. I mean, on top of the oh, what do you call it? Just under the lid,
Oh yeah,
on top of the polystyrene sheet that I put over there. I put a thick polystyrene on top of the inner
yeah.
cover, and on top of that, the mice build a nest because on the side of the lid there was a knot that fell off. So they found a
Oh,
little.
okay.
So they
Oh,
got a couple of brown mice, field mice. They got inside and they brought stuffings and all that and made the nest.
yeah.
So yeah, I had that, but the hive survived. It was a very good strong hive, and I guess it kept them warm.
Yeah. Oh, it would do.
Yeah,
Oh,
but we don't have a hive beetle here, so the small hive beetle. So so far we are lucky, and
yeah. I guess it'd be too cold for them.
uh, south a little bit souther than here, near I think Windsor, near U.S. Michigan over there. So it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
southern Ontario. Over there there is small hive beetle, and that's a restricted area. You cannot move the
Yeah.
bees out in the quarantine zone or out of the quarantine zone. So
Oh, okay. So they're trying to stop the spread of the diseases then.
yeah,
I mean,
but
sorry,
still Niagara is close to us, and it's in vicinity of New York State, so we can still get it from there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think last time we had to go Robert, he was saying they've got hive beetles there, and he's is Michigan or something. Yes, it's sort of near.
Yeah, in Michigan. He's in Michigan. Yeah, and it's cold
Yeah.
in Michigan, like here. I mean, the differences in temperature is maybe 2 or 3 degrees. I mean Celsius. I don't speak Fahrenheit. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
I grew up
Okay.
with international measuring system, so I know metrics and Celsius and all that stuff. I don't do Fahrenheit, and I've learned inches because I work in construction here in Canada. So yeah, I learned how to deal
Yeah.
with inches and feet and all that stuff. And when I'm building the hives, I use the imperial measuring system, but the weights and degrees and all that stuff, no.
Oh, well, we're the same here. We're all metric here as well, so
Yeah.
we don't understand feet and inches and stuff. I understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can understand
Oh,
that, but when they're talking about yards and acres, and then they kind of lose me over there.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I've got a question here from Graham
Hmm.
in the chat room. He's got, is there any top bar hives in Canada?
Yes, there are. Not too many. The reason probably is because it's harder to extract the honey. I mean, you have to press it. You can put it in an
Yeah.
extractor. So that's probably the most important reason why we're not using top bar hives. I thought about that, and that was my first thing. I'm like, am I gonna destroy the frames every time I try to extract the honey? And then it's hard to develop, multiply the hives, split them, because every time they have to build. And in order to build, if you're splitting, you have to feed them sugar syrup to simulate the conditions, because when they're swarming, they take a lot of honey from the old hive so they can have food that they can consume to produce that wax, to make the comb. So when you're splitting, they don't take all that honey. So you have to give them sugar syrup to simulate that condition, then they will start to grow the comb. Otherwise, they have to fly, go out, get some nectar, come back. They can't deposit it anywhere. They have to vent it, and it's more complicated. So it's very slow growth. So it's hard to split a hive. So.
And do you find that? Have you heard of you with top hives in Canada? How do they overwinter? Or do they overwinter them well?
I have no idea. I don't actually spoken with. I haven't spoken with anybody that actually have, but I heard from some beekeepers in the association that I just joined. That there are some beekeepers that they're doing so. Probably they can winter them well. I mean, I don't think it's such a big problem if you insulate it, and make sure they have enough food. I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, because the bees will adapt, won't they?
Yeah. The only requirement is that you're using removable frames. You can use any type of hive as long as you're using removable frames. So you can pull them out and check for AFB or EFB or other stuff, diseases and stuff that, especially AFB, that can be easily spread, so.
Yeah, it's nasty stuff, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have that here, but we don't have hive beetles in New Zealand yet. So.
Also, the same thing are the other beekeepers telling me that catching swarms, you have to quarantine them to see if they have any diseases and stuff. And, before you bring them to your regular or bee yard. Yeah. So you gotta have a location to put them, separate them, and see the development, treat them, and all that stuff, and then you can bring them together. So it's not so easy. I will not get into swarm catching. Maybe in a few years, but not now.
We do it. We do it. It's more of a community thing, really.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But it's I know what you mean. But we have a site away from our site, so we just leave them there for a few weeks, and at least 2 brood sites. We join them to the other hives. Yeah, because you do find that a hive that's heavily infested with varroa mites will actually swarm because they're trying to get away from them, and they do bring a lot of mites into your hive. So absolutely. So if you get a swarm, you can treat them as soon as you get them. So you get like thousands of.
Of course.
Sugar shaking or something that's
Yeah.
mites walking on them. Yeah. Well, we all have similar problems, Gabriel, don't we?
Oh, of course. There are always problems. Anything you will do, you'll always have problems. But you have to keep positive and get over them. Find ways to overcome those problems. I mean, that's my way of thinking. So it doesn't matter that I got left with only 2 hives. At least I still have bees. I don't have to go and buy a hive from someone, for $200 or something, just so I have a stronger hive when I get the nukes, so I can start a queen rearing. Yeah. So I'm happy just for that little thing over there.
Well, those bees are survivors, aren't they? So you're good. Good stuff. Yeah. So have you got anything else that you'd like to talk about, Gabriel?
I don't know. I mean, mostly I show the box with the 4 compartments for mating nukes, and the idea is to keep it on top of a stronger hive, so the worms, will help them, and have those bottlenecks, they make the tunnel effect. I mean, these mini nukes won't be robbed because the robbers will be scared to get through that tunnel inside the mini nukes. So even if I feed them sugar syrup and I don't give the hive below any sugar syrup, they won't get robbed because the robbers will be afraid to get through the bottlenecks.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, of course, I saw it, presented by somebody else, so it's not my idea, but it's
Oh
good.
yeah,
I
no.
mean, I think it's good to, show these good ideas that people find, try to implement them and show other people and teach other people how to use them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what our blog and our podcast.
Yeah.
Showing good ideas from other people. Yeah, I mean, so as far as New Zealand's concerned, you invented that, Gabriel. So don't.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, if would it be possible you could email me a photo of that and a photo of the fall one?
Hmm.
That'd be great, and we could add that to the thing because we also release as an audio podcast later on. So for people that are listening on the audio, they could actually see,
I haven't taken any pictures of this yet, but I guess I'm gonna take a few, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll post them on my blog, and you can just grab them from there, no problem.
That sounds like a great idea. And if people want to read your blog, what's the site? I've actually printed it out here, but
yeah. Yeah, it's called naturebeeliving.wordpress.com.
Okay, and we'll add that into the show notes for everyone as well, so they can click on it. And you've got some good blog posts there, and some great photos of the stuff you make as well. So it's fantastic. So yeah, keep going because we need all the beekeeping blogs we can, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, there are hundreds of blogs. I spend most of my evenings, when I come back from work, and I put my older daughter to bed, and then I look online and read about what other beekeepers are writing about on their blogs, and it's overwhelming with all kind of information. And I just found a website from I think it's from Vancouver. And it has a ton of information about beekeeping.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I'll try to post. I think I've seen some. I found it linked into. Someone was talking about how you built a quilt, to put on top of the hive for insulation.
Oh yeah, that's.
So it was linked over there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Instructions over there how to build a quilt for a hive. So that's how I found it.
Oh, yeah, because I originally got that idea off Rusty's website, Honeybee Suite.
I don't remember exactly. I've seen so many, because now it's hard to remember every one of them, and it's hard. That's why I said I can find it and write it down on the event page. It's that. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, do that. That'd be awesome. Okay, well.
So I still have a lot of reading from there.
Oh yeah. And you've got to read our kiwimana website as well, there, Gabriel. So
Yeah, of course.
Mind you, we're slowing down now because we're going into our winter. So.
Yeah.
Now
I
read blogs.
Well, I think in the winter you'll have more time, thinking about what happened past season, what are your hopes for the next season, and write all that down, make a plan and all that stuff. And of course, the plan that I made over the winter, now it's different. I try to adjust it so I can still have the same goal, in the autumn, have 20 hives.
Yeah.
And if I can winter, like I said, exactly like I'm using these nukes on double mesh boards, bottom boards, on top of a regular hive. That's how I'm gonna try to winter queens.
Yeah, I think that would
just put them in a box like that on the mini nuke frames, with bees inside. Every queen to have a full box of bees. With all the frames filled with honey, and with sugar board here, candy, on top, and I can change that, give them more candy every couple weeks or every month or something like that, so I can winter 4 queens on top of a hive.
Yeah.
So they get all the warmth from the hive below, and I guess I won't have a problem, wintering queens.
No, it sounds like a great idea. Well, the thing is, last year, did your plans for the bee season, did you print them out on paper and give them to the bees?
The plans?
Yeah.
No, I just made sketches, I talked with my father, so we were like, okay, we're gonna, depending on when the weather is gonna, improve, and how much brood I have inside the hives and all that stuff, counting the square decimeters and counting and all that, make the calculations. When I can start the queen rearing, and yeah. It's pretty complicated. And of course now it's moot. It's it's different, totally different situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, you stay on the line there, Gabriel, and I'll just end the transmission. So thanks again for coming along today to the Kiwimana Buzz Chat. And if anyone out there is watching this and they'd like to be part of this, get in touch. Our website is kiwimana.co.nz. So we'll end that there now. So thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll be back next month with another podcast.